Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Vicki. Again, we are broadcasting Fighting Children and Youth Services in Pennsylvania. Anybody having trouble with Children and Youth Services or in the family courts, we have put together a coalition. It's called Pennsylvania Coalition for Family and Parents' Rights, and we invite anyone to call our hotline, 206-339-9546, or you can email us at info_PAcoalition@gmx.com, and we'll try and get you some information and direct you, maybe things you didn't think about that could help your case. We're trying to gather a group of attorneys that will help us out. I made several phone calls today that because of some phone calls I got and different information that those people gave me. The problem is so widespread that I'm hoping that we can get more attorneys on board that really know where we're coming from and, of course, have dealt in this before. I did talk to someone today who is going through family court, which is not CYS, but still some of the stuff they forced them to do when she told me that the ex-husband forced not only herself, her new husband, her mother, her father, and her 5 sisters to go through evaluations, psychiatric evaluations. Talked a little bit about this before, and if at all possible, and there shouldn't be any reason you cannot do this, I would never use the psychiatrists that they recommend, because if they're recommending them, they're part of the group and probably going to go one way or another. They're not going to be fair. I am expecting a call in today. I was talking to someone about keeping your child from you and the extent that caseworkers will go to. And in my case, the caseworker went as far as in a child abuse case where a child was about to testify against her abusers. The guardian ad litem conveniently didn't show up for this child. That's normal. And the caseworker actually hired someone to come in, another attorney, and threaten the child that if she testified, she would go to jail or could go to jail, which, of course, scared the child, and she didn't testify, and the abuser got off. But that's the extent that they sometimes will go to. I have a caller we're going to talk to. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
I am really good. What have you got going on? What experience have you had with CYS or family courts?
Well, my name is Christy, and my case happens to be in Lebanon County. And I was also abused. I heard the lady Michelle, her story. Mine is kind of similar. I was abused physically and emotionally by my ex, and my daughter, I am finding now, is emotionally abused as well. And I found out in 2009. She reported it to a therapist, and the therapist apparently made a report with Children and Youth. And when I contacted Children and Youth in Lebanon County, there was no report of this. But I have the therapist's report. So when I did some follow-up with the regional office in Harrisburg, they said they don't know what happened, that they dropped the ball, and they would look into it. Well, a year later, I'm still waiting, and no one has a reason why it was not looked into. Now my daughter is court-ordered to go to a different therapist, and she has told me several times that she had told this new therapist that her father tells her what to say, and he has done nothing about it. And it goes back to where you said about if the therapist is appointed, usually they're involved in it. That is definitely true.
Yeah, that's very scary. That's very scary because, they tell you that they're appointed, like you have to use them.
Yes, and then the sad thing is not only are they appointed and involved in it, I also have to pay the bill of the therapist.
Yeah.
And then
I'm sure it's not cheap.
It's not. And also, when there is a guardian ad lib or an attorney appointed for the child, as in my case, a plain attorney was appointed for my child, I also have to pay that bill. So it all goes back to the money. It's who keeps forking out more money, and it's getting unbelievable with the cost that I have inquired. Now, my case has gone on for 7.5 years, and I bet you I'm up over $200,000.
And it's just uncalled for. So uncalled for.
Yeah. And it just continues.
I know.
And then in January of this year, we had gone back in so I could have phone contact with my child. And the judge said if I wanted to have phone contact with my child, I had to buy her a cell phone and pay the cell phone bill. Now, mind you, she has a cell phone that her father bought her and paid for, but I have to buy my own cell phone and pay the bill for her, which is ridiculous.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe judges. I cannot believe it. I remember when my sister went through her case, the judge ordered her to buy a fax machine, and they were only allowed to communicate through fax. So ridiculous.
Wow.
I mean, this is probably 8 years ago, but these judges sit on a bench, and they are such bullies. And I don't see how it can, they say you have to see a therapist or your child. That should be up to you who that child sees. You know, it shouldn't be up to them to appoint their same old gurus that are going to come back with what the court wants to hear.
And that's very true.
The circle of money.
It is very true, and that's the thing. It's when I tell people that I don't have custody of my daughter, I get a funny look, and then they say, "Oh, did he have more money?" And that was kind of shocking to me for people to say, "Oh, does he have more money?" Because before this, I have never been involved in the court system. So this opened my eyes very wide to the situation. And it makes me very grateful that my two older children, you know, their father and I never had this problem. We, even to this day, even though they're in their 20s married with children, we still are in the same room, you know, with our children and our grandchildren, and we're pleasant. We just say hello, you know, because people think when you're 18, when the child is 18, that it all ends. It doesn't. Just the support money ends. You still have weddings and funerals and grandchildren being born. So you have to be in contact with the other parent almost your entire life.
Yeah.
And it's just
it's
really
so much
sad.
easier on the kids if you get along. Definitely, it's so much easier if they don't have to worry about what's going on between you two. I don't know the parents that cause the conflict like that. I don't know if they are in some kind of weird world where they think this child's never going to grow up and see life for what it is, because obviously all of our children grow up and then they know, they remember, you know, then you got to face that. It's just ridiculous. Why even do it in the first place? All the years that are missed, all the time, it just, it's going on for so long. And I know that you and I were talking too about the keeping the child away and how it affects the whole family. You know what I mean? Like the time that you miss out on being with that child and what they're being told here and what they're being told there. And you have a therapist thrown in. And I don't know if your daughter has issues or whatever, but a lot of times, and I see this a lot, these kids don't need any therapist. They're just being kids, and they just want to be a kid.
Correct. And it's weird to see that I have two older children, And because we did, protect our children and weren't selfish and got along, how their mental state is very good, and they don't have to worry about when there's a party for one of the grandkids, like, oh, mom and dad can't be in the same room. They don't have that. They're just like, oh, hey, I invited so-and-so. My dad and his wife are coming. Their parents are coming. It's not an issue with us. I mean, everybody is kind of welcome, and we just hello and have brief conversations, but it's never anything awkward like I hear with some families. Now, it is very awkward with my younger child because of the situation. Like, I will go to her activities on their time, or when it's my time, they will come to her activities, like at basketball or baseball, and it is very uncomfortable. My daughter feels like she has to choose. If I walk up to her and say hello, she quick looks over at them and then turns away. She's in the point where she has to choose. So when it's on their time, I try not to go to her activities, which kills me inside, but I also see the stress that it causes on her. And as a mother, I don't want to put that stress on her. But then when I go to court, well, why didn't you show up for the activity? And I try to explain it's too hard on her, then I'm the bad parent because I don't go to her activities, even though I'm trying to save her all the grief and her having to choose. I mean, as a parent, I definitely want to be there, but because of their alienating me and making her feel like, she has to choose one of us, it's just detrimental to her. And I don't want, I see how it is emotionally for her, so I don't want to put her through any more. And I think that's
so sad.
I think that's what a lot of parents are feeling because we're alienated from them.
Yep.
And I think it's a form of. And go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm listening. I'm here.
I think it's a form, in my situation, for my ex, it's a form of control. Because even though it's been 7 years and he had different women, he will still phone me and ask me sexual questions. And when this is brought up in court, he's like, no, that never happened. Even though we have cell phone records. What's he doing calling me at 2 a.m. in the morning? I mean, there's no reason for that. So, I mean, for the judge to think that something's not going on is crazy. I mean, he's followed me around. He's hidden in my, vehicle. It's crazy. And when people testify on my behalf, I've had children in youth at one time because I had supervised visits for a short period of time. They testified on my behalf, and the judge was like, I don't want to hear it. Like, he just does not want to listen to the truth. And even when my daughter went to her first therapist, he did not want to hear that the therapist reported that dad was brainwashing her, telling her what to say. She uses too big of a word for her age. He didn't want to hear none of that. So that's where we're at today, where she is so emotionally scarred. I'm at the point where I'm afraid that I'm not going to get her back. And I still have very limited time with her. I mean, there's people out there that are on drugs and things like that, and they do have their children. And for whatever reason. But because I chose to leave an abuser and report the abuse, because I thought possibly it was affecting, that it was going on to my daughter, I lost my child. And I think the judges...
And that's a story that's told a lot. That is a story that is told how many times that because you report abuse on you, that they step into your lives where government doesn't belong and start making decisions for you, your child. And it's not just, a couple of months, like you said. It's over 7 years. just ridiculous. All the money. Ugh.
My question is, like, they sit on that bench and pass judgment. Why do they not have to take, like, extra classes, like on abuse? You know, they overlook all the evidence, and they think they know what's best, and they're not involved in it. And I understand they don't have the emotional tie, and they shouldn't be, but they should take some classes on, like, parental alienation, a woman being abused, and things like that. But they, as far as I know, in Lebanon County, the judges don't take any extra education courses. They just sit there and pass judgment. And from what I've seen and being caught up in our system in Lebanon County, they are so bad. Even when the evidence is looking them in the face, they don't care.
Well, and I think that all goes back to the web of corruption, where the judges are in this as much as the lawyer, the guardian, the therapist, the social worker. It's just to keep the money, and it's job security and profit, plain and simply. They get so much money for having these kids in the system and using guardians and using lawyers and using therapists and using psychiatrists. The judge gets to sit there, so the more cases he has to agree to or sign his name to, you know what I mean? It just keeps going round and round and round, and nobody, even the women judges, because in my case it was a woman judge who should have clearly been able to have some kind of empathy for a child. None. They're just so cold-hearted. All the social workers are women. They have not a clue. Most of them never had a child. They don't know, and they don't care. They get in these jobs, and I'm pretty sure that you have heard about the meetings, how they have these meetings once a month where it's like their pep rallies of how many new children they have to bring into the system and how many the numbers they have to keep in order to keep their jobs.
Wow.
So it is.
So my question is, where do you go? Like, I've done all the going to the higher ups, writing the judicial board. It almost makes you feel that nobody is going to listen, because what I've gotten over the last 7 years before I found this group is a blessing, because I thought I was alone, and I've learned that I am not. But I went to everybody and anyone I could think of, and the response I get is, it's just a custody case, you're upset because you don't have custody. That is the furthest from the truth. If I would know that she was okay where she was living and she was not emotionally abused, I would have let this go a long time ago, because the time, the energy, and the money is just way too much, especially the emotional toll that it's taken on myself, on my older children who have missed out growing up with our sister. It's just unbelievable that instead of destroying just me, they destroy an entire family, siblings, aunts, grandparents, and that's what's really sad. It affects more than one person. It's like a ripple effect. And
it does include everybody. It does. It includes everybody. It goes through the aunts, the uncles, the grandparents. It's so destructive. But you're saying, like, where do you go? I think just about every single one of us that comes into this, remember we talked about no one gets it until they're thrown into it, until you have it right in your face, how you can just walk away and not realize what we're doing. But almost everybody that I've talked to, now there's some that you can give some direction and help, but has done the same thing. You go to your legislators, you go to the higher-ups, you go to the Department of Welfare, which they are covering every social agency, they just cover for them. Every judge, anything that can go wrong, they just make up an excuse why it's right. Or, oh, you fell through the cracks, we'll take care of that, never do. But where to go? That's why we formed the coalition. That's why we are here, because there's got to be a place to go, and there's got to be somewhere that we can unify and strengthen ourselves and bring down the crap, stop the crap, get legislation plan that you do get equal time with your child. It's ridiculous to keep a child away from one or the other parent unless there is that really good reason. And someone needs to be stepping up and, actually doing that and not having the circle of people. I think we do have to, like I said, I was trying to gather the attorneys, but I also want to gather the therapists and the advocates in this situation. We have to start figuring out who those people are that aren't in these circles, that when they show up at the courtroom, it stops. That's it. You can't go no farther. I'm so glad that my sister did that. I did that. Finding either an out-of-state lawyer or an out-of-area psychiatrist, therapist, whatever you have to do. And if a therapist or psychiatrist does you wrong, file that complaint. Pursue that complaint. Because my sister did it against Lynn Mullis, and she was gone. She got suspended because, yes, they had to go to a trial. Yes, they had to testify, but she did wrong. She was going to the school, picking up their son, taking him wherever, doing stuff that's the kind of stuff that happens. And there's no place to go. They didn't know where to go to. So hopefully this coalition will find more advocates for us and move forward. There's a place to go where you can call, anyone or get on the hotline and ask a question, and everybody will research until they can get that answer for you. But we all know how good the legislators have worked for us.
Well, that's the thing.
Unfortunately.
We need to start voting them out, and everybody doesn't think they have a voice, but we do. If we all stick together, there's strength in numbers. And I see with the new, the governor race, we need to start voting them out so that they start listening the people are taking back some of their power. Because the ones that are in there aren't doing anything. Like we said, we go to them and it's a custody case. And,
that's not my area.
Yes.
The Kathleen Kane. Oh, yeah, you're the Attorney General. If you can't go to the Attorney General of your state, what exactly is your job if you're not overseeing this stuff? That's what your job is.
I had gone to one of our legislators in Lebanon County. Her name was Rosemarie Swanger, and she will be retiring this November. But I had gone to her when my case first opened, and I explained what was going on, and she took 6 months to investigate my case, which I was very thankful for. She wrote the judge a letter that I have, and she said that she found no reason that I should not have custody of my daughter. And then at the bottom, she had put, she will respect his decision because she's only heard one side, and she will respect his decision since they're friends, and that's where she left it. So because they're friends, she'll respect his decision. But she just, completed 6 months of an investigation with children and youth and, the therapist report and everything. But they're friends, so she was just going to let it go. And that's what's scary because they're friends. Nobody wants to step up and say, look, you're doing wrong. I had an attorney in the very beginning, and when he first started my case, after I had lost custody, I kept pushing him, go back, change something. And he went back and he said that my judge was Judge Klein in Lebanon, and Judge Klein told this attorney that if I would stop fighting and just follow his orders, that I could see my daughter more. And he also told the attorney, he said, if you don't stop fighting, I will destroy your career. Now, that's really scary. That's why the attorneys are not stepping up in Lebanon County, because they have to go in front of this judge all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd want to lose my bread and butter either, but these are children who are our future. So if they aren't healed, they're going to be an emotional wreck. How are they going to take care of their children, or even us when we become elderly? How are they going to take care of, the future generation? It's just really sad.
Well, I know that Lebanon County is definitely a cesspool of corruption. So is Berks County. I mean, it's everywhere. There's Berks lawyers. There was a woman lawyer that had stepped up to help in these situations, and they threatened to take her children. So she bagged us. And we've had some attorneys that have just, turned a deaf ear to us because they're afraid, because that is so true. They are threatened, and they can lose everything. They'll financially destroy them, whatever it takes. I do believe that the first lawyer that steps up and takes us on is going to make a huge name for themselves, because we have the factual stuff. We're getting so many cases that are rock solid in prosecuting and getting somewhere. It's just finding that attorney that knows it, that is not afraid to do it. I hope that I hit on one. We all have to keep calling and asking and taking names, because sooner or later someone's going to have the nerve to do it. And someone out there knows how to do it, and it has affected them most likely in one way or another. It's going to take that lawyer that they took as grandchildren, I guess, or that he went through a divorce and sees how ridiculous it can get. Say, his wife is in Lebanon County and he's in Mifflin County, and you start to see how the game is played and all over. And some we can't pick on all attorneys, because some of these attorneys are will attorneys. They're DUI attorneys, criminal attorneys. They're not involved in this family court stuff, but they know what's going on. Absolutely, they know what's going on.
Well,
no one just wants to step up and do anything.
Even like you said, if they're criminal and things like that, the whole thing is they also have a duty. One of their ethics is if they have a judge that's acting improper or behaving badly on the bench, as to where mine, Judge Klein, yells and screams, tells my attorney she's stupid, things like that. They also have a duty to report that judge to the judicial board. So if they would all start doing that, then the judge wouldn't have the power to do anything to them. And things would probably get better. But like you said, nobody wants to step up. So that's why it's been allowed to go on as long as it has. And I don't see it getting any better until, like you said, an attorney steps up and says, look, this is wrong. We're going to try to, fix it or change some things. But like you said earlier, we have to get to the legislation. And like you said, see how far we've gotten so far? They don't want to listen either.
Yeah, there's. I know that we've approached the panels. There's different panels. There's different bills that are kind of lingering out there. I believe there's some legislation that's coming up really soon. But a lot of times when we read over it, it's so vague and it's not really getting us the transparency that we want. I really do believe in the cameras. I mean, something's got to give. The cameras are everywhere. They need to be in the courtrooms so that nobody's going to pull the crap. Then if a judge goes off or a caseworker's lying, it's right there. And you have that proof. I don't see why everybody's so afraid of having that proof, except the guilty. But they should be in there. And we're trying, how much could be avoided if, all of us would have had that alone, and I know they go through the whole, the juveniles, they don't have to put the juvenile on camera. And most of the time, as a foster parent, I know when I go to these, when you have these hearings, the child isn't even there. Most of the time they do their 6-month reviews without the child even there. The social worker steps with the folder up to the judge and more or less makes the decision, and the judge signs the paper. He doesn't know who these kids are. There's too many of them in the system because they keep stealing them and putting them in the system. Judges can't even keep up with every case. It would be impossible, even in a small crap hole like Schuylkill County. It's just too difficult. And I don't know. I just hear so many stories up there, too, that judges actually are, screaming at these young people, making them feel worse than they already feel, or they've been through the system. They've been, held hostage in foster care or have gotten out of foster care and they lose their children, because that's just part of how the circle keeps going. We keep preying on people. How do we get the family courts and all of that to straighten out? People like us in a coalition that are saying, no, we're not doing it no more. And we make those phone calls, and we have really good people, leaders behind us that have great ideas. You're doing your part. Michelle's doing her part. Everybody does their part and brings it all together. Kim's gotten a lot of, she's stomped on a lot of toes, and Donna Morgani winning her suit. We just have to keep going. And I think that we're making headway. I know the ball has definitely gotten larger, because a lot of people know who I am when I call. They take my phone calls because they know who I am and they know I'm not going away. And I know that you have made that impression on some people, because you've been stomping this ground for a long time.
Yes, so, and I was told not to post anything or say anything by my judge, or he was going to impose sanctions. And you see where that has gone. I do have freedom of speech. I can post whatever I like, but now next time, if he hears about this, he will try to give me less time with my daughter, because he'll say my mental state is not proper, because I won't go away and I won't be quiet. And I'm not going to.
Well, and I think the court watchers, and I don't know how much they're going to put up with us from, doing that, but I believe the court watch thing, like Lou going to court with people, when you have someone from a radio station or you have someone from the newspaper going to court with you, we have court watch. We try to have a group that does that. I think that's very intimidating to these people. I know that it makes them angry probably also, but it stops them from getting away with some of the stuff they would normally have gotten away with that day. And it's being reported about, because Lou will go back and put it on the radio. You know what I mean? The reporter will go back and write about it in his paper. So, next time anybody out there has court, they might want to call the coalition and say, is there anybody available to come to court with me? It's just another advantage we have.
Yes, I just want to say I'm so thankful for the coalition, and if there's other parents out there and you think you're alone, look it up on Facebook, get in contact with you guys, because you're not alone. And it has, emotionally, it has brought a lot to me, because like I said, I thought I was by myself in this and trying to fight the system alone. And I was just about at the point where I was going to give up until I found this group. And I just wanted to say I'm very thankful.
Well, let's not forget about the Lebanon County Family Court Support Group. They can find that on Facebook. And there's more support you got going on there. So we're all trying to get liaisons in all counties. No matter what county you're from in Pennsylvania, call the hotline for the coalition at 206-339-9456. And someone from the coalition will call you back and will get you into the group, and hopefully you'll take over being a liaison like Christy has, and you get people together. And there's a lot, probably more people in your own areas than you realize, because they're so either afraid to come forward, they don't know how to come forward. And once they have that support, I'm seeing a lot of people come out of their shells and not afraid to speak up, because they have the support of all of us helping them, which before they didn't know what to do. They just feel like they're so defeated. You feel like there is nowhere to turn, because they tell you more or less you're defeated, and you're not. There are other ways to do things. There are things that they cannot do that they might convince you that they're allowed to do, that you might learn in this group, different avenues to take and how to stand up for your rights a little bit better.
Yes. I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to talk on your show. And I'm going to call it a day.
You are very welcome. Okay.
And
all right, Christy,
have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Great information.
Thank you.
We'll set up another
Bye-bye.
one sometime soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Bye, Christy. Bye. Okay, everybody, that was someone from Lebanon County. I talk a lot about Schuylkill County. Michelle was on from Berks. I'm going to try and line some people up from some different counties. If you want to call in at any time, the call-in number is 646-595-2137. And again, we're the Pennsylvania Coalition for Family and Parents' Rights. And our hotline number is 206-339-9456. Please leave your information there, and someone from the coalition will get back to you. And you can also email your information to info_PAcoalition@gmx.com. Thanks for listening today. I hope that we got some good points across, and tomorrow's show will be a little earlier. I'm going to do it around 10:30, and I will try and get a guest on for that. It might be a little bit shorter show. If I can't line anybody up, I'm going to try and do that. Thanks for listening. Bye. Have a great day.